Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be on the globe. So this is Mohammed Shilon coming to you now from the great state of North Carolina, USA, and with my co-host, Mr. Victor Mangum, coming to you now from Britain. So today, that's Sunday, February 5th, 2023. And so, as usual, we hope we'll get a very interesting dialogue. And at the end of it all, I hope we may be able to have learned, or we will have learned from each other, depending on the civility of the discussion that we may end up having on this show. Now, also, just moving on, I always can like for remind we listeners them for say this is an interactive show, meaning it's live, worldwide, going everywhere. Whoever is listening has the ability to call in, make contributions by way of suggestions, by way of disagreement, as long as everything is done within the bounds of civilized behavior or civility. Everybody's welcome. We strongly encourage mutual respect, respect for the host, and respect for viewers who call in. And likewise, the host will extend or reciprocate in kind manner. Now, today we get mainly it's going to be most of what we will do. It will be based on politics, the current political situation. We'll get some hot issues with it go on. But before we get to that, for just make things easier for our listeners, there are certain numbers that one may need to call in to be able to get a point across. So as usual, I take upon myself for always announce, although the number I then came with the project them that the screen for whether the watch, whether on your telephone, your iPad, or your laptop, or desktop. We also, or whether the watch from Facebook or wherever, but we get some certain information we can project so people can see them. Telephone numbers. So normally we get a toll-free number when 1-866-944-7722. 866-944-7722. Then at the toll-free number. If you're calling from the UK, United Kingdom, it's plus 44 20 80 89 1455. Again, plus 44 20 80 89 1455. If you're calling from Australia, it will be plus 61 29 09 84 337. Plus 61 39 from Australia, plus 61 29 09 84 337. One more, repeat. Plus 61 29 09 84 33. And if you're calling on WhatsApp, it will be 1 343 997 5828. 1 343 997 5828. Okay, that said, we're going to go right into when the show starts, or as we've begun. Everybody is welcome as soon as we begin for talk about the issues for call in anytime. You don't have to wait until we comments or commentaries are finished before you call. The lines will be open right now, starting from this moment. So if you get any question, please call so we can entertain your question. Another thing too, I always try to discuss the calling process. When you call in, we allot 3 minutes, 15 seconds. Actually, we allot only 3 minutes. When the 3 minutes is over, if you are still talking, the buzzer will come on. We give you 15 extra seconds for wrap up. In the event you're not able to finish because you get too much for talk, just decide to indicate that you get some more points for make. So you will call back, because we encourage people for call back and when the 3 minutes is up, because there may be other callers on the line. And if you get for finish your own call before we take other calls, let's say somebody takes 6 minutes, for example, for expressing himself, you get 5 such people on the line, so the 5th person might be holding for over 30 minutes, before we will get to wrap, and that will be much too long. So we try to accommodate everybody and try to be courteous to everybody. So please, when I help we accomplish that goal there. All right. For today's topic, it's going to be mostly the politics of Sierra Leone. We are going to do 2 things. As we all know, there is this hot issue going on right now with respect to the debacle would take place in the National Coalition government, or the Grand Party, the National Grand Coalition Party, headed by was headed by Dr. Dennis Bright, and of which Dr. Yomkela is the parliamentary opposition leader for that party day. So the things that are going on are so inconsistent with statements being made by certain members of the party and some expressions by part of the leadership, that we're trying to reconcile all the differences, and we'll try our best by next week for be able to bring either live or recorded statements that may clarify some of the ambiguities or the confusion or the inconsistencies we would see with respect to whether Dr. Yomkela has resigned the party or has not, whether Dr. Yomkela can in fact resign from the party, or as a matter of law, he cannot, law and regulation. So there are so many questions to be asked, and there are so many other people among the NGC hierarchy for let we talk to, for do some clarifications as to where things are. Okay, so we'll try to sort that out. But top on the list today is we'll try to get for just give a perspective of Sierra Leone's political history. Sierra Leone political party history, on the political history per se. So we want to give people in perspective so then we'll get a better understanding of how did we get here, where we are, and what can we do to move forward. And some of the things that what would they do, or what would not they do, we make the country appears to be hard to govern. And what we think will lead us them for improve the current situation, so we're not going to get a repetition of what we are trying to straighten out right now. So with that said, because now Mr. Victor Mangot, so I will turn over to him, let he introduce himself, and he will address this issue about the political history of Australia, and we'll move on from there. So Mr. Mangot, I turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shillon. And we people them who sign a day, whether you did America, you did Australia, you did Salone, you did England. We're glad for we in a join we as usual on the program. And this program, particularly as you can say, in a Creole with the drum. And say Creole get a lot of parable them. Even when the main man they talk about. Kanda Yomkela where they talk to him people them. Na parable the pool. Because one of the parable where he say Muslim then get nikau. Where them bring that kalbas, they know they call big man, then they call Peking for go take that kalbas day. Na big man and they call. So likewise, na that same way they I want to look at this thing today. Right? Waiting they happen in our country, they say if we don't know how they go, let us know how we come out. And for let us know how we come out, I want can give sort of an historical perspective of the politics of Sierra Leone, the governance, how the parliament was molded, till we delve into the main topic. And the reason why I want to do that because some of the statements the way they make, where even Mr. Dr. Yum Kelasef made, he said, to sell out. In the put country first. And that makes one do this for say, what he do, not strange, whether as an individual or as political party. So let's start first how Sierra Leone was made. Then we can see how political party developed. Then we see certain key politicians there, where they self do attempt for do similar things to waiting we they see they go on now, even before this government and this situation. And that time they go, when people will understand, say, waiting the apple is not unique. Let's start but pre-independence. When I mean pre-independence, before 1961. Before 1961, we've been under colonial rule. When you take even Salone, we've been get what we call the colony and the protectorate. Now the same country, the colony, the boundary of the colony and the protectorate, the Songo. So if you look at Songo, part of Songo they're under Freetown, part of Songo they're under Koya district. So now the colony and the protectorate. So for people that were born at the colony, they were protected citizens of the British. The one at colony, they were colonial, colony in the colony of Freetown, we've been there under the Queen. Then the one in the rest of the country were the protected. We are protected by the colonial administration. So now that we can get. Then for going to this parliamentary democracy, what you know, when we want transfer as far back as 1958, we will get two particular groups. We get the Executive Council and the Legislative Council. The Executive Council, now they mean they help the British colonial master for rule the country. And then in Boku Wetman Mindere, you get a few. Then you get the Legislative Council. Now they even get the House of Chiefs, and you get 2-3 people. And so that's how we start. So during that 10 days, towards independence, Boku party been there. So the first, like I explained, tell Fambul, and the first thing which I will call political alliance, Kono company, law come together for see how we take power. During that 10 days, before independence, we been get 2 brothers then. Albert Magai and Samuel T. Magai, the late president. But before their own term, there have been this drug in there. The people are waiting in a colony say, well, we want to get we own separate place from the protectorate people. So that battle they've been there between the colony and the protectorate. So from that history, then I bring with regionalism more the so. Because from time in Maroya, we don't get different ideology based on the region Usa you born or Usa you day. So I remember the people from the protectorate been get a party where they call UPP, United People's Party. They was mostly dominated by the Creoles, I would say. Then you get the people from the protectorate, mostly who are like progressives, led by Samuel T. Magai. So again, there were these 2 ideologies. But there came a man will be opposed to that separation day. We come back to this Junkela idea of country first. And this man have been Reverend Jones. He not been agree with young people them na the colony. He says Salone we all you na one country. The other people that we been there na the ITA Wallace Johnson, where if you na go near City Hall, you na go see in Boston there. He played a good part in the shaping of Sierra Leone. They get another giant when I be Marcus Grant, when I been trade unionist. Then they on one side, this Reverend Jones did the other side. So Jones now, for showing allegiance to the other side, he changed the name to Lamina Sanko. So if we see Lamina Sanko Street, now from that Monday, so from the beginning, people they don't begin change allegiance based on their interest and belief. So I would say if you want to put her in modern day term, Lamina Sanko in ideology na country force. Now make sure he go against him brother then. Say he go join the progressives under Sir Milton Magai. So now the first side and we see that. The next, you come to the Magai brothers. You can get Albert Magai, we been the UNPP. You get him brother Milton Magai, we been the SLPP. And before getting independence, Sir Milton have been the chief minister. Not so like the chief minister who get now. Then a different chief minister. He don't tell we been the chief minister and a prime minister in waiting. So during independence, a lot of drug, including players like Shaka Stevens. Stevens was opposed to independence. We them for Carl Lancaster House. In fact, in them, get for lock them up. For keep and quiet, so independence will go ahead. Albert Magai, UNPP, and in brother SLPP. Later on, for brother business, Albert Magai changed and joined SLPP. That was the birth of SLPP. Because why would they bring this history? Because their party, SLPP, now the oldest party, now like what the American and call the Republican Party, the Grand Old Party. Not so, Mr. Shillon?
Yes.
So if we put terms, SLPP now we own Grand Old Party.
Old parties, indeed.
Shaka Stevens have been there, but where he not agree with the Magai brothers they now, he still say the two brothers they don't join together. Now he form APC. So that's how APC come into being. And let nobody not fool you. APC starts from the south, but they only launch in the north. So you can get stalwarts them. We join Shaka Stevens for form APC. So APC was in opposition until waiting the problem can now. Now when Samuel Magai died, we them in camp for now say forget a new prime minister. And brother Albert was the minister of finance by then. But then he got a big galejo then at the SLPP party when at the likes of Dr. Karifa Smart, MS Mustafa, and Salia Jushu Sharif, people who had been stronger in the party who should have made prime minister. But the governor general in Impart at that time makes Sir Albert the prime minister. Sorry. Which did not go down with these people. Right? So now come back with the talk about election, with the talk about coalition. So the next election we'll get after that were very important in shaping Sierra Leone. Now the 1967 election. Under the 1967 election, some people and they were not one deal with Albert Magai, where they not give symbol. I think it was Kutubu Kaisamba was one of them. There was Anthony, about four of them. Elian Brewer. Yeah. They not been agree with Albert Magai. So then decide for stand as independent. So you can see from SLPP stronghold, then go independent. So what are the talks now for showing the pattern? Say it's not new. Because in English, they say in politics, there are no permanent enemies, no permanent friends, but permanent interest. So this is the pattern we don't go all. So when the election, Vida 67 election, 32, 9 have been the seats. So remember saying that 64 seats will be in a parliament. Now we get 135. So there was this 32 between the SLPP and APC. The people that were waiting for make the difference. Now the independents, the LM Brewer and Kutubu Kaisamba, the rest. But then give Albert Magai a condition. So then go only join the SLPP if he stepped down as leader. So the Governor General by then, Sir Henry Life Boston, invites Shaka Stevens for swearing as prime minister. Right? So during that time, we have this man, Inga Norman, who was captain by then in the army. we been get for put the Governor General under house arrest. Because we were under the Queen, and the Governor General been represent the Queen. And that was when we get the first coup in the country, which was the David Lansana coup. So that is how we can talk now with this two-party hegemony with an APC and SLPP. One a red sun, where they born with aid. The other one a palm tree, where we say they cover away for shade. And that palm tree, then they give you poyo, where they make you become intoxicated. So one they born with aid, the other one they make we drunk. So we don't stuck with them two parties here. Then next, why I bring this? Now for say, beaucoup people and non talk say we should get a third force in politics. What do they mean by third force? Another party will come, we're different from the SLPP and the APC, we will bring hope. That is what Kande Yumkela came with. But we will do that in the analysis when we come to that part day. But after that Independence Day, Shaka Stevens don't kind of power. The first third force we come was Dr. Khalifa Smart. He came back. I think it was the 74 election around that time. He came with the NDP, National Democratic Party, for be a third force between the APC and SLPP. He not make any inroad. The two parties continue to do tug of war until Tete we end up the next election in 1978. But before the 1978 election, they will get the Republican. Before get the Republican Constitution, 1977, the students then they rise up. Now that time the school picking a revolt. Would have been they will grow up that time. Now remember, we'll get no college, no school. The Indolo tried them. Yeah, so these are the people, the students, leaders them at that time. No college, no school. Then Shaka Stevens, they accuse and say he was with cronies. They say no get Bookman and party. Then Shaki say, okay, what's he making telling us say? Now sense make book, not to book make sense. But if you not say in a one Bookman then, I go bring them. Now that time he bring the likes of Dr. Abdoulaye Conte, Dr. Eke Toure, Dr.
Fona,
he gets
Mohamed Fona,
huh? Mohamed Fona,
Ibrahim Jackie,
Mohamed Fona,
Cyril Faure,
Jackson, Cyril Faure. So he bring all them Bookman and they kind side. Right? And Shaka Stevens want consolidate power. So the year after that, now we get the Republican Constitution, where we get one party. Again, when we get that debate in a parliament, the people that will be the SLPP, then say, then give the all opportunity for crossover to APC. Again, with survival, they all crossover, except one man, the last man standing, was Manakpaka, who we were told was even uncle to Shaka Stevens. Manakpaka refused for stand and join Shaka Stevens. So from that 78th day, where people like erroneously with error saying that APC don't rule the country, no. The one party was a coalition. Because you get prominent people in the SLPP, we serve under that one party system there. To the point of being vice president, minister of finance, prominent among them people in there. We get MS Mustafa, Mohamed Sanusi Mustafa, when I'm here, come on na Freetown. But in tag, at one time, na Fulatong man, but he been represent a constituency in Bo.
Yeah.
We get Salia Disipirif, who was minister of finance. We get FM Mina. the late Mina. We get Sama Baya,
These were
who
all
is still there.
these were all SLPP people.
These were all SLPP people. The APC people at that time, now the likes of C.A. Kamaratelo, and the two prominents have been C.A. Kamaratelo and S.I. Kuruma.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the rest of them were all stalwarts in SLPP. So why I bring all the example here, now for sure you say from time immemorial, with politicians in our country, now politics of survival. They want to be significant. So, let not blame Kande Yunkela, because we'll go into that. Whatever he do, he gets a reason. The only two we can discuss, when my colleague go into, now because you know make it very clear. So then, Shaka Stephen rule until the next stage now we political history will bring this problem. Now when we now, Momoka now, under pressure, he said, "Let's get the 1991 Constitution." We now they talk 30 days. And under the 1991 Constitution, they then change Bokuti them. You know? Because one of the things, the minister they now, na president they appoint her. The party na get power for decide whether you go be MP or not. So they make the 1991 Constitution where they preserve the power of the president as against the legislature and the judiciary. Now make so today we get where they appoint you and they say it pleases the president. Now the letter and the standard ideology, it pleases the president. So if it displeases the president, now go you the go so. So from that, after the 1991 Constitution, 1992, we get rebel war. Then they continue until we go back, 1996, we get this PR system who they talk about. So, I don't get into this summary here. And waiting to take this long step back now for sure say, from time immemorial, politicians, political party, they don't jump ship, they don't form alliance. First cell way within a parliament, they call them cross carpet. You can cross from one party, go to the other party. We don't get all down there. So there's nothing new. But which way they can focus now, we're getting two parties here. The man way they can talk about, instead of the man way, sorry, instead bring a new term now political calendar. Country first. But then he talk about then two parties here. He called the Alassane Alusain. He said they're a twin. Then he called himself the Beshe. Beshe, according to tradition, are the one where they follow the twins then. So, now so he bring himself kind side. But we get the same thing at Creole, because Creole, how the name we picking them, it come from the Yoruba culture. When Creole get twin, we get Taiwo and Kainde. Then the one we come on after Kainde and Taiwo, now the Dou. Then after the Dou, you get the Alaba. So this man don't can now say, Alusain and Alassane, now they no problem, then twin ya. From them, now then they cause problem. So me na the Beshe. So now me na the follower of them twin ya. And me come with country first. So I go hand over now to my co-host. Let me introduce this topic now. When at the second part of this Drodro and Kuskas, waiting at the NGC party, waiting the big allegiance they don't say, and waiting they don't make clear to the people. Because until we say country first, na new idea. Because before, I play some audio where Dr. Yunkela, he get 40 way promise with country. He say, in they come with a new political narrative. He said, we're not going to follow the old pattern. He want to follow change from the orthodoxy. He said he want to reduce waste. Because government get waste. And then say, you know, he said, now look at the audit report. So this is a man who come like the Messiah. You know, remember like quick guys been come, doing Palm Sunday, we then throw palm for a way, in way, we then say, right down, in majesty. So now, so we been take this man. So now make so today now, we can look at what it happened between he and his disciples then. And yes, before I hand over to me co-host, somebody said Mr. Mengo, Dr. Fona was with Chaka Stephen from the beginning. He was not part of the bookman that were brought on board his government later to satisfy the demand for educated people to be in governance. Yes, you're right. I think Senator Mr. Shola, yes, Mr. Fona been there in the beginning, but when he fall out with them, with Fona, you get an issue there with Mohammed Sori Fona and the Taki brothers. Thank you very much for pointing out. Now make sure, as I can say, this platform, we learn from each other. Nobody get monopoly pan book sense. And some of we, some thinking they, with time, we are able try to forget something not clear. But gladly, now make sure this platform, we encourage people then for kind side. So I don't reach this side, where I go hand over now to my co-host, Mr. Shilon. Let it take over.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mengot. I'm so sorry. I was muted. Well, thanks for, we greatly appreciate your commentaries so far. Now, for just make one minor elaboration, not clarification, in terms of Bookmandem, as was referenced to Pashaki for saying, okay, Bookmandem, I'm not sure it was meant in the absolute sense that nobody get University of Education. When they talk on the aggregate, Bookmandem not be Boku or not that much. But yeah, there were certain people, highly educated people who joined Pashaki, people like Dr. Fona, right from the start. And to the best of my understanding, I'm sure Mr. Takibi, the journalist, was also there. In those days, I was a student activist. I was in high school, so I was a teenager. So some of the things, some of which the narrate go by recollection. But so now that clarification I make, not to foresee the fact that Dr. Fona Bide, yeah, that's good. That's good thing for bring to our attention. But we also want to know, just for give a background for how things be to go. Now, with respect to some of the, let's go back to Dr. Yomkela, because we won't play in audio, because although we're not going to get into that topic there, but since reference was made to him in terms of what's going on in the party, there were things said in that audio day that we don't want to necessarily analyze. But even I, after listening to the audio, I was not clear as to whether Dr. Yomkela was in NGC or was out. And so we'll be the try for get some clarity in terms of where everything stands. So we'll go like, because I think we want to inform the public as to what's going on, because this all involve we Sierra Leoneans them. But as I said before, we have, me believe say, every government we can a power. I agree with Dr. Yomkela to an extent. Country forbid before party. Unfortunately, that's not how a good many of us see it. Practically speaking, most of we see party before country, and which is a recipe for disaster. Because if we are as nationalistic as we ought to be, we go at times disagree with our parties' them position. Because we get so many flaws now we own political system, we need for correct all in system there. When Mr. Mango talked a few minutes ago, That we get a situation. I don't think we always the catch on to that. For say we some major changes there because there was a time where for you for be a minister in the cabinet, you have to be a politician. Politician, you have to run for parliament, be elected out of the parliamentarians with the president, with the, where the president go from the rank and file, where the president go pick somebody and make them a minister. So that was a very notable change where at some point we realized for say we cannot get the best and the brightest to serve in public, in government offices, in high offices, if we want them to become a politician or for become parliamentarian. The other thing where we political system we really need for look into. These are all the foundation for the confusion we will go. I mean, we will never have a perfect system. There will always be pushing and shoving. But sometimes we will strive towards a, like the case in America, yeah, a perfect union. So perfection for be we goal, even though we may never be able to achieve it, but we must persistently continue striving for that goal day. So, for example, everybody knows that right now we get a system where it is not the people who pick their parliamentarians. It's the political party that picks the parliamentarians because the people are only left with voting for whoever the party they choose. But you're not going to be a politician or a well-educated person for no say. That will not be a government by the people. Nor will it be a government for the people. Nor will it be a government of the people. Because you are only giving me and tell me, say, this is the person I have to vote for. So we need to re-examine this process of political parties giving what you call symbol to certain candidates to run either in a constituency or in whatever capacity as the official representative of that party day. I think a more democratic process, and this is not just suggestions, for we already talk, even if we rewrite the 1991 Constitution, we should start thinking in those lines if we want to make a solid foundation for posterity. We do the primary system. Mr. Mengot suggested that, I think, last week. The primary system for those of we in America, yeah, those of us who are here, we know that. What happens? Anybody can choose for run under a political party. The party not get forget the symbol. You know, you for a certain constituency, and everybody is allowed to go under that party symbol day that the person choose for run under and campaign to the people for whatever constituency or whatever office you run for. And let the people choose among the 1 million people who go run as candidates or 1,000 people, somebody is going to emerge as the victor or somebody is going to emerge victorious. So out of that group day, now that person they now for represent the people because most of the people choose. But the system we'll get now, and where is again is a recipe for corruption and it promotes nothing but corruption. And Mr. Mengot pointed that out last week. Let me say, me, Mohammed Shilo, I did America all these years. Then I want for run as APC or SLPP candidate for a certain office or a constituency. If I get sufficient amount of money, all I have to do, skip all the other people whether they're in line, we're ambitious for run. All I have to do, people that will not get as much financial means as I do, just go free out and pay all the big guys then who are responsible for making the decision in the party for giving symbols. And voila, I am the candidate for East 2 or wherever. You see, which the people may not even know me. They may have never heard of me. And this is what we see going on in both political parties. And there is not a desire to change it, but it's not a workable system because it promotes corruption. So when we talk about corruption, we get for look, you see, we are so much into dealing with effect. We don't look for cause. It's just like when you say malaria, malaria, malaria. Well, you can treat malaria all you want. But if you not find how to prevent malaria, it go there in perpetuity. It will go on forever. So some of them problems, yeah, what would they see? We bookman them and they don't fail we. Either they not get the foresight foresee what may occur as a result of the decision, or they are knowledgeable enough to know that, but for selfish motive, they're not to do what's the right thing. But if we are really serious, if we want to put with constitution or with politics together, this is how we go about it. Okay? And so if we not do that, all the thing here what they talk about is what they say in English, an exercise in futility. It's a waste of time. There will never be a solution. Last week, I dealt with a situation whereby the Constitution said there shall be census every 10 years. There shall be one census every 10 years. Then somehow, some smart people, some clever people, some bookman them, go in a parliament, go pass law, say, but, or however, in the discretion of the sitting president, he can require I not to use the actual language, but he can require, I not to use the actual language of the statute, or back home they refer to it mostly as act, but an act, statute, and one and the same thing. He can just call the commissioner of elections, election commissioner, and suggest whether to go with one system, or the other system. Or the president get a right for just call for midterm elections. Well, isn't that a contradiction to what the Constitution requires? So what sort of law is that? And such a law, I'm amazed that, and we get a lot of smart lawyers in Australia. I am surprised that the public interest lawyers, them, the big allegios, them in the legal profession, have not seen fit to attack that requirement that act. They will say the president can call can do a midterm census for say it contravenes or contradicts or it violates the Constitution, the requirement of the Constitution. It can't be that such a law should be allowed to stand. And the other mistake what we make back home that we have to realize, Parliament does not have the absolute authority to just pass any law it feels. There is a thing called the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. Anything Parliament does has to be within the context or the requirement of the Constitution. So when Parliament step out of the bounds, that's why we have lawyers. That's why we have the courts. That's why some civil society or some public interest group should step forward and bring Parliament back in line. So there are a lot of things where they go wrong with a system that we're not dealing with. So every time, effect, now we deal with. But if we really want to solve a problem in Australia, we can, because we're very smart people. We are counted as one of the smartest Africans you can find anywhere. But I think selfishness don't overtake reasoning. And this is our problem now. Last week also, if I remember, I suggested that there are certain positions, or that I refer to as entrenched positions, or offices that if we are really serious about once and for all improving the system so we can stop this pushing and shoving, there are certain offices, I think the opposition, the government, therefore agree, at some point, like the Kenyans have done, for say certain offices should not be left at the discretion of the president. Because the president is a politician. You cannot require the president for make a declaration against your interests or the interests of the political party he supports. So when I was in law school, I used to have a professor, Professor Sampson, who used to say, wherever there is discretion, there is abuse, because discretion is left to the subjective judgment of the individual where they exercise the discretion. So this is the problem we have. So when I begin lefting to the discretion of a president, he will be foolish not to take advantage of it if it is in his favor or in party in favor. You can't blame him. And this is what I see is happening with SLPP at the moment. Some bad laws were passed or were enacted by APC for whatever reason, who at the time they made the right then laws here, we are so sure they will stay in power, which is a foolish way of really trying to write laws. Then SLPP became the unintended beneficiary of the bad laws that were passed. This is what President Bio is doing now. He's taking advantage of all them bad laws here, all them discretionary power I want to give, just like what we do with the COVID. Sierra Leone, I think, on record, is the only country where we get a president who declare a state of emergency. I don't think a state of emergency was declared anywhere else in the world for COVID. But the parliament go pass law, say the president get the power for do so. So we have to start looking at the activities them, and they will be very careful as to how things are being done. Now, some of the, again, let me repeat, the entrenched offices, if we are really serious that we want really try for, set a good foundation. And again, for a good democracy to flourish or to get engaged in the trajectory of a good democracy, we have to start showing some inclination or indication for build institutions or strengthen the existing institutions. And the existing institutions, some of which are the court system, the civil service system, the educational system, and on and on and on. So if we cannot strengthen them, at least let's leave them where they are, but not try to do anything else for dilute the effectiveness of the system there. And a good start is the position of the Inspector General. I believe the position of the Inspector General of police should be redefined. I believe that we should stop weaponizing the police. We should stop making the police feel that their job now for do what in the party in power say. And people who have heard me talk about this, you have a series of precedents and for blame. It was very well practiced during the APC time. Police officers are being brought into politics, but they're not good for we. So why do we keep doing it? If we let the police they know say, then job now for protect lives and property, regardless of which political party you belong to. Then job now for enforce the law. Any other way for doing, it's just like what you will call going through the cycle, because it's not going to work. It's like going around in a circle. There is no stopping point. So we get for look back at the police in some trying to refine their office day. We have to be willing to take the Chief Justice away from the wishes of the president who appoints him. Maybe we need to refine the appointment process. But I don't think any Chief Justice is going to be able to do justice to the country if the term of the office depends on the pleasure of the president. You can't do that. It's not good for the country. The president may be given the power to appoint, but once he appoints, that person should be allowed to serve within a fixed period that we think is of great use to the country. So when are we going to get a president who is willing to do that? When are we going to get a parliament that is willing to do that? When are we going to get a parliament that is willing to redefine the boundaries and the powers of the Inspector General? We have to give the Auditor General latitude, because the Auditor General is the person who looks out for we revenue and money And we all know this is not fact, that 90% of politicians, regardless of any party, if you not get control over them, they will thief all the money. Because they are there for themselves. We know that. This is no secret. And no matter if you're APC, SAPP, integrity is in very short supply among the two parties then. So if the Inspector General worker for do the work, serves at the pleasure of the president, who may or may not be willing to comply with the laws of the country, who may or may not be willing to be accountable as to how monies are spent. Well, I mean, what good are we doing if the president can fire the person at any time or suspend the person at any time? Is that in the best interest of the country? I don't think so. This has nothing to do with APC, SAPP, or politics. It just has to do with good governance. So when are we going to have a president with the courage for redefine and make sure, say, that person is not going to serve at the pleasure of the president? The Electoral Commissioner, we want an Electoral Commission with integrity. An Electoral Commission that we really, really, really could trust. We see that going on in the United States. They are fighting for that. Because human tendency being what it is, even in a country as advanced as America, you see there are people boldly, like our former president, who openly tells you give me the opportunity, I go cheat, I go lie. So we get into Australia, we get Donald Trump's then kind. Okay? So that's why laws are passed, because human behavior can be very strange. That's why you make the laws there. So if we not get an Electoral Commission and commissioner, we go make sure, say, elections are properly run and let whoever the people choose win, then democracy not go flourish, And last but not least, and we're feeling the effect of it right now. And I remember very well when the SAPP was in the opposition and Ernest Koroma was in power, the current governor of the Bank of Sierra Leone, I watched some of his videos them, who was suggesting that one way for make sure we have good monetary policy in Sierra Leone was to take the office of the bank governor away from the dictates or directives of the president. The current governor was saying these things, just like how we have in the United States. We have Treasury Secretary, what we will call Minister of Finance, but we also have the Chairman of the Federal Reserve, who has no connection with the Minister of Finance, no connection with the President. He's subject to the directives of any of them people here. He runs the bank independently and what is in the best interest of Sierra Leone. Professor Calfella had suggested, Calfella Calon did suggest all the thing. I wonder what happened now that he's in the driver's seat. Okay? But we all know, say, until such time that a bank governor now go be subject to the dictates of the president, our monetary problem go always continue. Always. Because the bank governor, in a lot of ways, he's helpless. He's not as independent as he ought to be for make the country run efficiently. So these are some of the things then, what we talk about with politics in Australia, it's a big, big, big problem. But the bookman them, now that make them go college, now that make the land book, but the bookman themselves, when they come back home, they self one gentry, they not to service the one render, not to country the one for help. They self, and some of we, meaning we were then at the diaspora, we get to say that too. A good many of us, when we go back into politics, not to make contribution back home. Now for make up for what you were not able and do for yourself all these years. Now the hard reality down there. You don't in America, you don't in Canada, you don't in Germany, you don't anywhere. Some of us have done well. Some of us haven't done as well. Okay, then we decide, say, okay, I'm approaching the last lap of my existence. Maybe if I can sum up some more money and go in the area where I'm born, at Sierra Leone, Kono, Kailaun, Pujen, wherever, and tell me people and say I can't look out for them, they can vote me, I can become a parliamentarian. Knowing full well you are in this for yourself. The vast majority of us, that's what we do. So the country is damned in many ways. So I'm not surprised what's going to happen now at the NGC. So I will hope NGC go show some degree of balance, objectivity, foresightedness, and I get some reserved comments I will get from make by Dr. Yumkela in audio. Maybe today is not the appropriate time, but I think part of the problem within the sea now, this question and this vagueness or ambiguity as to whether he's still, well, by law, it's my understanding that he cannot leave NGC until Parliament is dissolved for election. I think he even mentioned that. He not say I'm so, say by law, but he just talk about having planned for do. But I think that's what the law requires of him. So as far as we know, whether he wants it or not, he's NGC. He's the parliamentary leader for that party day. And he's stuck with that position there until such time that the law says he can relinquish himself of that position.
Mr. Schiller, let come in that side, right?
Yeah, you're quite welcome. Yeah.
Usai, I mean, the law not go force him for stick as a parliamentary leader for NGC. Right. What it says, if he decides to resign from the party or expelled from the party, if the party expel him, if he resign now or the party expel him, the party can write to the speaker and for say he no longer represents them, so he automatically loses his parliamentary seat. And if he loses his parliamentary seat, it means somebody else within the NGC party would now be the leader of the NGC party in parliament. So that is why he said, I'm here afterwards. Parliament get at least 3 months to decide it, but I will continue to serve as the leader of NGC in parliament. But as far as the running of the NGC is concerned, the number of elections, he is part of the National Executive Council, being an elder and a former flag bearer. But they have not appointed their flag bearer. So he's in there. He has not moved. But then the key issue, now this idea of in dogma or doctrine where you say country first. He said, if I say country first, if president call me, he want to talk to me, I will talk to her. And I will continue for talk to the president. Not to alter I go talk to the president, I can't tell him, not to alter I go put in social media. And some people go with that instance, some did not. Right? Because he said by the very name of the party, National Grand Coalition, is a coalition that they are setting. They can join with anybody. But Lord, remember, say, before he made this move, the NGC party be there into some kind of discussion with other smaller political parties, the APC and other smaller political parties, to form COP, which is Coalition of Political Parties. And the chairman and leader, who was reappointed but now resigned, was leading or representing NGC in that COP. So it means there are two ideologies within the party, or let me say two alliances. Let's go back to the topic, the relevance of political alliances. There we had a chairman and leader because COP has been in existence for over a year, who has been in COP talking to other political parties, including APC. Then all of a sudden, at this 9th hour, the man who is a founding member is seen with the president, because rumors been known to take place, because people were saying, is this man going to join SLPP? Is going to leave? He kept quiet. The first visual we'll get was when he spent the New Year with the president in hometown attending a church service. He's a Catholic just like the president. And let me make it clear, right? For me, I see nothing wrong with that. If you say you want to go worship with another Sierra Leonean, regardless of in Usai Nadina, the political divide, nothing wrong. After us, we see people with political ambition, when a Christian, they go to mosque. The other way around as well, when they get Muslims, they go to church. Because that's the political base. And then they go, it can only happen in Sierra Leone because of religious tolerance. So these are the things. And as you say, we don't want to go too much into the thought process of Dr. Kande Yumkola. But he leave we all wanting more. And when I mean wanting more, will he go or will he stay? That is the key question. His choice of alliance with the president, is it the right thing? Then the next question. The third question is, what happens to that third force ideology? Because he was the man who brought the Alasane analogy, and he being the Beshe. He invited people in for Trust the Beshe. So then people and they were invited for Trust the Beshe. Where are they now? Some say the co-op, where the in chairman being represented, now with the Alassane, in own discussion with the president, now with the Alusane. So you see, that is where the problem comes in. Where is the third force in Sierra Leone politics? I feel to say that we for the look at now. We for look at who side this third force there. Because we all don't tire with this Alassane and Alusane. Not saying one. They say the spoken word can never be retrieved. We see other people there. Samsumana, what you know been say about the APC? Now the same man they fetch for go back to APC. Alpha Khan, the man who named himself the apprentice. We have on record what he was saying about side. Now we even translate the dogma into Timini. Talk and do. Off of tea or your tea. So again, the Timini version. You see? So this moving of our political parties, individual, as you say rightfully, Mr. Shilon, is not good for our country. It's good for the individual. Because the individual, they want to stay in significance. For God's sake, let's take our speaker for that matter. In fact, he was one of the names I missed out when I've been talk about Shaka Stephen bringing them book money. And that time they will look, because we get this ideology in our country that for let them call you big man, you get forget doctor. Now him bring the dominion factor. Ye dominion, ye. People feel to say, when I don't go get, then they call me doctor. You understand? I don't arrive. So, what's Bundu? Dr. Abbas Bundu was one of the people brought in under then Dr. Day with Joe Jackson. So we talk about 1977. So if you take 1977 to now, it's well over 40 years. So if you take and say Dr. Abbas Bundu at that time was in his late 30s or 40s, the man is an octogenarian now. And he's still playing a significant part in we politics. And for now, go to the next side where we can talk about. He is the very same man who brought to the notice of the parliamentarians that, hey, the PR system is in our law books, law not discussed. And the president can introduce them if he so wish. He left and so some clever lawyer go say, Mr. President, of the speaker don't talk. So it's up to you now to introduce him. And when he introduced him, he came to this landmark court case. We still not solve the problem. So let's put that in context. Because some of the advantage we then tell we say PR system will bring, they say one, it will save money. And how will it save money? It will save money, they say, because if we get a law, say, if they decide for choose an MP as a minister, he get for resign in position as an MP, which means that seat becomes vacant. So if he be the fifth man where they give that constituency, where he come out, the number 6 man now become number 5 if they get 5 seats. So the number 6 man automatically become the MP and we no need for going to by-election. The one waiting for PR system, and that they say that the one reason. They also talk say he go left this fet. And also Alusain and Alassane, now because they're based on the region, Alassane go able to get seats na Kailong. And Alusain go get seats na Tonko Limba. They say so that they go bring integration. And that integration, they go solve the problem. That is what they are saying. But now, let's put in context how this new PR system affects the thinking of smaller political parties. Especially the two, what I will say. NGs, and then they come into context what we will see this week. We see the president Nakono, where he welcome councillors them from C4C and some from APC, we go declare for SLPP. Why? Because even the local government is under this PR system. And let me explain for people how the PR system works. Because some people they say, na tutor we don't use them. Yes, we use the farm, but the one we used in 1996, where we moved from a military government to a civilian government, it's quite different from the one we used in 2002 and where we plan for use now. Because the 1996 one, the country had been one system for votes. So what they did, we then take the total votes in the overall country. Now from that total vote, they shape seats to party them. They not been get the district block system. This new one then they bring under the district block system. Now make something clear to fumble them. Because first of all, you will get the midterm census where you talk about. You also get the voters registration we will get. So then look and say how we go allocate seats. So then use the whole number of seats when 132. And then look at the constituency them. Because some districts now don't get higher population than before, and come to average. So let's say Kailahun district, under the system from the list where they publish, the western region already done lost, western urban, done lost number of seats, because now you only get 10 seats in a western urban, and 16 seats in a western rural. So how does that put the party like NGC and C4C now? Then they get what they call threshold. I cannot go into details how they arrive at that threshold, but we will tell in a later. But then say now, let's say in each constituency, right? For let you get one seat. Now that constituency, they under the district, in each district, you get 11.9% of the total vote cast in that district. That's not the threshold. So if you go back to the last election, neither C4C nor NGC will even get 10% of the votes nationally. And both parties are regional parties, I will call them. Because NGC na Cambia no more than get seats. Likewise, C4C na Kono no more than get seats, even though they are a national party. So under this new district block system and the allocation of seats, it automatically means then smaller parties they will be wiped out. So we'll still get Alusain and Alassane. So Beshe now, in Atoku and Big Man, when are the chairman and leader, in one day with Alassane, Beshe, he not saying in the day with Alusain too, because he say he old word. But he still they talk to Alusain. And the one the way they behind Beshe, some of them are men picking them, some are siblings, they self confused. So this is the confusion we will get now with system now. Who still will go able to get an alternative to Alassane and Alusain? Because the Beshe now we get when I be alternative, Beshe don't talk say now unable to affect the. So now the situation now we're in now. Over to you, Mr. Shilon.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Mangot. Again, some of the things that I would point out, because we can criticize all day long. The reality is we have to come up with solutions.
Yeah.
Sierra Leone by itself cannot improve without the people, because the people that make the country. And the people, most of whom don't know anything about governance, about administration, they don't know anything about policy. And that make we, the one day we say we land book, for take with jobs then seriously. And that make we presidents them for appoint certain qualified people for operate the country in such a way as to make our life better. And because we get one more topic we want for talk about doing transportation, because we don't beat this situation to death, because we say next week we will try to deal with something. But I can just give one example. The reason we make appointing the right people in for the right position matters. Okay. In fact, Sierra Leone will get so much problem. It's about time we really begin to take a good look. Sierra Leone are one of the few countries, maybe the only country in West Africa, where we, the people, the Sierra Leoneans, have very little to show as having gained anything from the country in current setup. Sierra Leoneans cannot get bank loan. I know say the government is trying towards that. Sierra Leoneans cannot afford affordable housing. Sierra Leoneans are having difficulty having jobs. All of this, I think, is due to the fact that we know the use with smartness in a productive way. These are problems that are solvable. And the nationalism, they in we as it should. And let me tell you now why I say that. You take like a country like Qatar, of about 3 million people. They only get two resources for revenue: petroleum and natural gas. Only two. Yeah, these are highly top income driven resources, but not two no more than get. They get 3 million people, almost half the population of Sierra Leone. And I need not lecture people about how advanced, how economically successful that country they be. And then get by far, I can tell now, less PhDs, less master's degrees, and on and on and on. Qatar is just about half the population of Sierra Leone. We get 7 or 8 times more mineral resources from diamond, from gold, from iron, or from bauxite, and on and on and on. Then we go into agriculture, coffee, cacao, coffee, banga, and then we go into fisheries. Now, compare how these people are running their economy in relation to we, like Sierra Leone. Why shouldn't the income or the standard of living of a Sierra Leonean be as high as that of a Qatari? Why shouldn't we? Why shouldn't a Sierra Leonean be making an average income because of the wealth in relation to the population? Why shouldn't the average Sierra Leonean be able to earn at least $20,000 a year? I mean, the average Sierra Leonean. So how can we explain with all them bookmaya they will get? We know people are not doing their jobs. We are selling with people amount. Because how can we explain that people are making an average income of $50 or $40 a month in a country so blessed with wealth? And then we want for brag say we get all them bookmen there. But before I will switch, I want for hasten for, there was someone who sent a commentary asking about the bank governor and whether the bank governor, Bangura, who was there during the time of Shaka Stevens, there was a question that came and said, has the constitution changed something to that effect with respect to the duties of the bank governor? And let me read. Gentlemen, was the constitution during the time of bank governors Samuel Bangura, who attempted to frustrate Shaka Stevens from interfering with the country's monetary policy, different in essential details from the 1991 Constitution, which is in force now? Well, I don't know what Mr. Mangum is going to say, but I think no, it's not that much difference. The requirements are the same. The bank governor then, Samuel Bangura, did not have the flexibility. He still was under the dictate of the president. But he used his position to be something like an economic advisor to the president by saying, no, Mr. President, I can't release funds just when you require that. And that became a serious confrontation between them. I may be wrong, but this is what my understanding of the law then was, that he had the authority, he did not have the authority, I'm sorry, to just disagree or take issue with the president, not like we have in the United States, where the president doesn't have the authority to even dictate monetary policy to the Fed chairman. So I don't think that law has changed. I think that has been what has been going on since Shaka Stevens' time, and it continues. Nobody has seen fit. The president can just make a demand through a minister of finance, make demand on the governor, Bank of Governor, for release certain amount of money, and is duty bound to do it. I think that has been a long-standing policy, but I stand corrected. So, Mr. Mango, I don't know what is your take on it with respect to the question.
I think the simple thing I would say when we talk about constitution, under Sam Bangura, we were using the 1978 constitution, which was the one-party Republican constitution. we give enormous power to the president. That was in 78. The constitution we're using now is the 1991 constitution. And for refer back to the post in the post we write about Sambangura, that monetary policy then also where they mention, because remember say 78 we been get a republic constitution. It was something to do with the OAU by then. When the Shaka Sebin Biwa host the OAU, and he was advised by the bank governor, says some of the things that were involved in with the cost of hosting the OAU will affect the economy. Because if you remember, saying that 10 day, then build the OAU village then, the OAU village and the house, the way they house the various people, delegates that will come, they may get for spend a whole lot of money for actually buy motorcar them for ferry the delegates them. They may even get for bring new ferry then come and reconstruct the ferry terminal na Tagreen, which was done by J Matter. So that was the issue. But apart from the constitution, what the constitution determines, it talks about there being a Bank of Sierra Leone Governor and Fiscal Act. But we get a separate law, I would say a corresponding law, when the Banking Act, when I give powers to the governor of the Bank of Sierra Leone, working through the board, and that has been amended over time. So basically what I would say to our man here is, yes, the problem is whether under Sheikh Stevens' 78th Republican Constitution or the present 1991 Constitution, our fundamental problem is the executive powers of the president. And that is not changed. It was the same under one party, but then skillfully, the one that we draft with constitution, skillfully retain that executive power, like say we still get a one-party system. So each time a new party can in government, de facto, it's a one-party system because it's a winner takes all. Because the president now they appoint all the ministers, it will sack all the heads of parastatal, it will bring new technical advisors, and also the president, the constitution give them a loophole. It can set so many institutions them without parliamentary approval. Now make sure even let we take environment. I can use that as an example, right? We get the NPAA, National Public Area Authority. Yes, then we get the other one, the Environmental Protection Authority, EPA. Then we get the Ministry of Environment. Then you get disaster management, where they under ONS. So these are all the things we talk about. We'll talk about the constitutional fit for purpose. So that's the question. So I don't end here. There's a very we don't go when the second part, we're very important when the topic. I don't know if my co-host Mr. Sheila wants to say anything before I start this topic, because this is something dear to my heart. And me a person way done then at this profession, transport profession, for over 45 years. And I've been no say the past program I've been do on airports, where we've been thanking her for in a report. Now we can look at other modes of transport, particularly land transport, and we will see what's in the government plan for doing with challenging.
Okay, Mr. Mangot, if I can just interrupt you briefly before you switch to that. There is a caller who, I think, not a caller, someone who sent in a comment. I was trying to get an understanding. And let me read it. Maybe you can deduce from what he say. He say, they are very selective. I don't know who is they, of what they post. I don't know what the posting is. They only post what's supposing their views, same mentality of those they are criticizing. Well, I don't know about anybody being criticized. I don't know anybody posting any views. So I don't quite grasp the essence of the person who is sending the comment, where I don't want to misinterpret what he say. But if they means we who are talking, we have not criticized anybody. We just point out the flaws of the system. We are not being selective of any kind of topic. So I have no idea. Can you, Mr. Mango, can you make any sense out of the comment?
I think before that, we have one caller on the line. Can we get that caller
Yeah,
on the
but
line, please?
do we want to get this person sent it so we don't have to deal with it again before we get the
I
caller?
don't think we need to enter into some kind of discussion about this because, as you know, whenever we discuss now, we give reference, we give examples, right? And if then they follow the trend of we talks, and we always allow people that we can even suggest what to talk, they make correction, we acknowledge them. So I think Lord just left and so and listen to the caller with you on the line. Yeah.
Okay. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where are you call from?
Good evening again, Mr. Shilon. This is Foden Mustafa from Leicester.
Mr. Mustafa, always nice to hear your voice and your contribution. Welcome.
Okay. I hear your voice a bit farther. I don't know if not hearing fine.
Yeah, we hear you very clearly. Very.
Okay. You know, let me just talk. Last week, you've been tried for correct say about the constitution, not the president cause them. I quite understand that, Mr. Shilon. Say the president not the act on himself like that. That the constitution ain't getting that power. That means that's why we are advocating for a change of the constitution because this constitution are one party state, just like when I talk today. You know, not too far from the one party, particularly the powers of the president. You know, that one we know that one day. And when you come out there, the thing that they try to talk about, like the third force, the other thing that don't come up. You see, the problem is Salone, not to say the third force not forget away, but the politicians they not get patience. They not get patience. Some of us, like me, with the talk show, I've been believe strongly in NGC because of I not see anything better between those two political parties apart from tribal issues. So I will believe strongly, but the patience will not get because politician not a career. Politician not a career because this career, yeah, like it just makes you like football. Football, you not go one for like be 30, you not get club or 35 for retire. That's the same thing with politicians. You don't under he want do something, he want get relevant. But we now with the support him, we feel say he do am because he like we or he get an ideology. No. That person they know he do am for one purpose. He want be a president and he want get relevant. Now the same thing we can they don't can put most of us and a lot of people, you know, because we will trust him. We will trust him. See the way we talk, oh Alusan and Alasan, making them pull and come out. Some of us are tired of that kind of thing. And it's look, anytime you see presidential appointment like this one show, 80% or 85 to 90% they come out from the south. Where and it's probably not the same thing they do. This is what some of us don't like to see. We want a country where we see people have equal chances of being, you know, of having positions. You know, so make what make we see say them people there they not get ideology actually for stick with that ideology for over a period of time, a longer period of time. The anyway kind of they talk say he will retire. No, he's not retiring. He's not going to retire. It only the come on at the ADC because you also say if he didn't have that boat today, it will take a long time before he achieve in goals of being a president or very close to the presidency. So now the thing is this way we face we will face. We not get politicians the way get patience for make them see how long it will take before because at the end today this way they talk see then we don't get 390,000 people in membership. I don't know who's in the country or out of the country. You say they don't get 390,000. That's 390,000 is more than how much they will get for vote last time. So I don't see which side they think about with and they collapse this program. So that I mean point that I want put across say well some of us are disappointed, but the third force me that idea they an officer go weak again very, in the near future. That I think if we don't die by now, because people are not going to believe anybody again we will come with the thought force, say, well, that can't try and because there was no say the other political parties them. They don't like that idea because let me just 1 more minute or a few seconds. This president who gets so he do like an Kurma again. And Kurma the same way he did as president, if he get the PMDC, he said he try to kill him. He kill the PMDC in an alliance. Now the same one back, the same thing back what this president they do. Himself, he don't kill the ADP, he don't kill the C40. The C40 said they give them a permanent injunction. How they give them permanent injunction, then take Lamina, because the old executive say let them pull Emerson Lamina. Now any president, the speaker, because Emerson Lamina never opposed the SLPP. He work with them. He praise them in the parliament. So we then come with the new executive, they say they don't want her to let to then put an injunction in them permanently. So now so they don't kill them. Mami Cole in party, he said he did at loggerhead. The only party that really function right now, the one who they talk like the PDP, that guy Prince Coker, where they talk for the president, that they exist right now. Apart from you can if the APC they be able to kill them, they will kill them. Let's stop there for now. Thank you guys.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
Mr. May, any comments before we go to the next topic?
No. I think it's well. I just want somebody will put something the why. In fact, one of Madam Fadima in fan is saying really they miss him and he can like the passion with which they do this program. And I go acknowledge that as well. Say Madam Fadima has been a valuable contributor, and he just happened to say anytime they do something, he will take a break for other personal reasons, and he don't convey that to you. And like for me now, I mean, another person they say they could retain me because they learn a lot, fine. And I'm also happy for being here. And I feel to say we all get with style and we get with knowledge. And viewers now a family. Now assure we listeners say Madam Fadima is not gone. She's back. And even me, I've been on do programs in the past with viewers as guests. But now I join Mr. Shilon because we need for get and going continuity. Just like the same thing what they tell we people or politicians say, government na continuity. One party go come or one president come, go bring something come. When time of office done, if you not done that thing there, we will get somebody else we go come. So now that may comment in my make. But today now I want to start this very important topic because normally we talk about trending issues. Because we now we in a different group them na the social media, we they sitting there with discuss bots. And transport naturally come up two ways. One, recently we heard the government announce say, then they can bring the railway back. Not of us say we get railway, but not for the mining company. So they say they want extend that railway there from Musa Edina Pepel area for go Tonkolili and Bombali districts. But then they go be we next topic we go deal directly into rail transport as a follow-up to this transport project. The other thing we come na social media na the Deputy Minister of Transport, where people and talk say then show where we get the first overhead bridge where people then begin make comments about. But people then don't know how that overhead bridge they come. We want to throw some light so there's more to transport than the overhead bridge. But before I go, Mr. Steven Nyale, my brother, that is false with regard to your comments to that of brother Arthur. In fact, Mr. Nyale, you need to be a such SLP. Anyway, I'm not going to that. That in a battle out. So let we talk about transport. transport. And I can tell people them I get the authority and knowledge in this area because it's been my life and my profession. So let's start with the railway first before it go lead we to Usa we come. We get with first railway na Salone in 1897. So almost year ago. When we get a railway there, na been 2'6" gauge. And it was about 500 kilometers. Then in 1930, we increased the gauge, the width of the gauge with the railway to 3.5, 3'6". But suddenly, in 1974, the then government under Shaka Stevens then closed the railway. So the main means of transport now road transport. So before we start, I don't know if the technical team they on standby because we send one video where the Deputy Minister of Transport been talk about this new overhead bridge. So I'll play them for fumble them because then they go put in context what we're able to explain to them what would they do for public transport in Salone.
The Deputy Minister of Transport and Aviation. I then have a force crossing today, for camping certain records on the streets. We understand saying from the yesterday when they put this bridge, it don't generate a lot of controversies, a lot of explanations. Some man they even say not to this country is capacity. Why some man they talk say that the way of freight and the now that record that comes straight so that people then will know inside this project that they work. This project they under the Ministry of Transport and Aviation. Now who they do? Why they say we because we are an interior member of that ministry, we are the Deputy Minister. Now who they do this project here soon? They don't under what they call the Sierra Leone Integrated Urban Mobility Project, IROM. This project now a World Bank and Government of Sierra Leone funded program. These are just one component. Now projects will get a lot of components. Like that footprint is that all this. We don't see this one don't come up here so. We get one again we'll get what doing at Lumley. We get one again we'll get what doing at Shell, and we get two we'll do at J Junction. Why government decide for do that project here? One, we have to make sure say we control the traffic. We want to control the traffic so that people they know when they come or to get the police for ban them so the man again for them they walk on the for Kana Street, for can be the control traffic for the people passing. So when you come, you just walk through the bridge and you claim a paper. The same thing with Lumley, the same thing with Shell, the same thing with Joy. So the government of Sweden they do under the new direction, under His Excellency President Julius Malema. Now part of the project is let make it talk say power by Salone the person, that most person man. So the president of the here, what some man is here, some man be ready at the yesterday say not to Salone. The brother is at Salone. Now the new direction they at work. President Julius Malema they at work. Now Salone this project they happen. It get what happen along the game when I get for see we don't pay all the projects affected people that may be called perhaps. Now only the utilities that are the ENSA, women will control the pipes there and the cables there. Once they don't do that, they complete. When I will see similar one kind of that train this one here, and along with this one, then when I will see an Shell, then when I will see two more at J Junction. So this project, not to mayor the drum, not to council the drum, and the government of Sierra Leone under the Ministry of Transport and Aviation, and under the supervision and directives of His Excellency the President, Brigadier Retired Dr. Julius Malema. The man will never trust steady progress because we don't say we say power for this.
Yes, well, Fambulem in all don't see waiting with minister, with deputy minister, don't talk about this footbridge. And let me complain for in a way they listen to it. We in this program, anything we go up for make we country safe and for improve we country, we are in support. But we not go just give blind support. We go assess them just like how we been doing with the airport. We analyze and the thing they will not say are challenges, we point them out, letting ourselves understand, and I can tell you and say government they listen. Now so now that make we call inclusive government. President Bio talk about them. Say what inclusive government. And I not think say any side there where we all they jam together reach transport. So now make so I will explain to you now because the minister talk about this World Bank funded project. And I know bottom because up till last year, 2022, I was directly involved as one of the consultants. And I'm still involved, but now working in a different capacity with the Poda Poda and Boss Owners Association. So what's in the need of this project? The first thing law will get, if all my members will get Salone Road Transport Corporation. Road Transport Corporation, them informed them in 1964. Now, one of the first corporations they will get after independence. And why they may form Road Transport Corporation? Number one, now them for regulate all public transport. Because that time, na bus and taxi no more will get. Those glorious days, Mr. Shillong, I will make you smile. Now the days the way they did na us, you send and go call taxi for you. The taxi can't wait before you do much. You wash done, you dress, you take your taxi. When they pass, you see you paddy, you tell and say, driver break. Take me paddy. Now that we been get. Then we get Poda Poda them. We been get the famous Mil Kilo. I'm sure say you remember Mil Kilo.
Yeah.
From the younger generation, they don't know it's in a Mil Kilo. So now that we been get. So we been get this corporation where one, now they provide bus services. Two, now they regulate bus services. Three, now they advise government on transport. So like when government want buy motorcar or transport for use, now go transport corporation there. Now they even repair that. But fast forward today, the transport environments don't change. For now, we don't go Salone for long. We get two-wheel, we na Okada, we dan in a motorcycle, commercial motorcycle. We get three-wheel, we na keke, dan de na tricycle, then call it tuk-tuk from in China. We taxi they now, they know they run like before. Taxi they run like Poda Poda, where it is stop and pick people like in the quiz. But that don't mean to say like when we go Tom, you can take the taxi and say, okay, I want na me one grade no more for user. Then I hire. You can hire them by day or by hour. But normally, taxi, they run like Poda Poda. One before, 3 BN. And we get the taxi then some day where they operate in the western part of Freetown. Some day where they operate in the eastern part of Freetown. Then we get Poda Poda them, then small minivan Mazda. Now we get Bokuna Sprinter where then they use. Sprinter na like goods van. Now Mercedes, then they bring and come. Then they build the seats then at home. It will be a government, we not talk about them metal seats then they put there. The damage the way they do to people then. At least one or the other woman they say all enclosed then they cherry because of their metal seats then they. Then you go see some big bus them. If you know where the America in another yellow bus the way they use for school picking them. We already get in a Salone now. Then they operate in a tongue. So we get a mixture of public transport. And when you look at the way we plan Freetown, Freetown was planned on a grid system. You know? So most people, you either in at the hill or they down the part of the coast. Then you get the middle. When I have very limited space. where na they all transport they operate. The one where they work out, the omolanke, the wheelbarrow pusher, they all. So government say, okay, let we talk to World Bank. Because it started in 2017. Let World Bank come up for help we with the public transport system. So then call the project. First, na be free tongue them in the look before this government come. When this government come, President Biogo na World Bank, he talk to them. Then listen to them. Then say, well, instead of free tongue, now make a Sierra Leone. Now make sure them call her SLIRUMP. What is SLIRUMP mean for? Sierra Leone Integrated Resilient Urban Mobility Project. So when they talk about transport no more, they talk about urban mobility. What I mean by urban mobility? Like Freetown and urban area. When they talk about mobility, we they look at everybody. We they look at the one day where they ride the Okada, the one day where they ride Keke, the one day where they ride Poda taxi, even the people that where they work on the streets. Now make sure we show this video where the minister they talk about their overhead footbridge here where they put for safety. So World Bank give we $50 million when a grant. They say government for put 2 million, and I will talk waiting them money than they for. Let's start first with the 50 million where government give it. And the different parts of this project them when at this integrated program. First of all, we get the part we call in the institutional part. Now that's how they may be the work. Because now, when you look at transport in our country, the institution then you get road transport, where still they run bus system. Then still they regulate public transport. You get the Salone Road Safety Authority. When they give license, and then they do roadworthiness tests, and then they do driver training, and they're responsible for them garage them. Then they get people that like them warden them. Then you get Roads Authority, where they under Ministry of Works and Public Assets. Now, they're responsible for the infrastructure, road repairs, things that for do with road signs, and all that thing and they. Right? Then you get another institution called Road Maintenance Fund Administration. When a daily money they come for repair with road. And how do they get that money there? For every liter of fuel we buy, then they tax them, and part of that tax, they go to this fund. Then also, some of the money that where SLRS say they collect, like for vehicle license, all that, they go to that funding. Now that funding now then they use for repair the roads. So from what I explain, we get different institutions that waiting at the transport. So let's talk about this public transport. So we'll talk about the institution now. As we can say in a Creole, you know the whistle and blow your nose together. So here we get one institution when a road transport corporation. Then they operate transport in competition with the private sector. But then they regulate them back. So then a referee and player. You go back to SLRSA. When they give license, now then they make the law. But at the same time, now then they enforce the same law when they make. So you can see, say, the roles of the institution, them, they overlap. Even between SLRSA and the Road Transport Corporation. So the first part of this World Bank fund, the way they give it, now what's it called institutional restructuring. You get for look at. So under this project, the government say, okay, now we go set up a regulatory body, who they call Salone Public Transport Authority. When they go responsible for regulate transport all over. I mean public passenger transport. From Okada to Keke to taxi to buses. That authority there, as I talk to you now, the bill don't draft, you don't go cabinet. Cabinet get parliament get for approve. So they work now for regulate, for bring standards, and go and World Bank, some of the fund support that idea there. Then go still they work with Road Safety Authority, but then and then they start set this the Road Safety Authority and then they give the driver and vehicle license. So it means you don't separate regulation from operation. So then on the first side. So the institutional side, we don't look into that. Part of the World Bank money go to that. Then we get for look at who side the transport share they operate. The road them. We're not able to cover the whole Freetown. So we say no, get a pilot route. When that route there, we will focus on. You get the eastern route, you get the western route. The western route, it starts from number 2 river to Lumley. From Lumley, it come, when you check that Lumley there, it come through Wilkinson Road, pass through Brookfields, Savage Street, Sanders Street, it go down to that old bus stop. The eastern route start from that old bus route, it go up Wilbur, Sani Abacha Street, Kisi Road, up Gunton Table, Kisi, Wellington, Calbaton, Jue. So another route there. So you get like an east-west route. So now there the government will make what you call in transport mass transit system. When a buses and they run them and they bring more than buses them, where there's 65 seater them, where for operates there. But for do that, you get for look at the infrastructure. The infrastructure now they inside the overhead bridge where they talk about. But also one of the problems we're going at Salone, Freetown don't turn one big supermarket. All side people and bread matter they sell.
No,
First we be na Kuton Road we know. We will come off Fullerton, Car Central One. We been get away to we got a place where they call Ogbembe. If you remember, Ogbembe been there off Kisi Street, who side and Sani Abacha Street now. And which now they sell junks them. Where we they call BPYY, Butu Pikion. Nigeria man call and bend and select. So now all side, then they sell. So that would stay what I explained to you. So we get encroachment. When a people them when they sell na treats. 2 million where government they put inside. Now for pull them people and they na treats. When they call them project affected persons. You get for compensate them. Number one, only area there. Now then at the first part, because Lumley now a big area. Because now, when you reach that Lumley area around Usai for go na Juba Bridge, Atlantic Road, go for go Malama, na big market. So therefore, so what would they do? We don't get sites where they build a modern market for them, for clearing at the streets. Then when they get a big bus terminal. So for let them put Okada and Kekede left for the park in that place. So we get for do a whole traffic management scheme. So they want the Freetown now, if you go in go see street walks in a Lumley, when they pull the roundabout, then get for can bring traffic lights. All that they on the part of this project. Now we call as engineers and now call the civil works. So new terminal then they come, new markets they come, now Lumley. Then the end part, now number 2 river, you get forget the bus depot. Then at the west side. If you go on the east side, the Jue side, if you look, you go see them on the broke house, then a apartment, and then shop front, and a Jue. All them people and then they compensate them. You get a depot there. When a day, the thing the end. So now make sure that they see all them boku road when they take place and for improve public transport. So we don't design freedom just like here. We will get a network of routes then. So then they will call it like east-west route. Where now the World Bank they buy buses them. They don't pay for 50 buses them. Then bus then a modern bus system. When a 65-seater bus, then they run according to timetable. So then get a bus stop, we identify all the area. And during peak hour, we get what we call 15-minute headway. So every 15 minutes, now in the bus they reach at the stop. So it's not like before where Puda they wait, take it full before it move. No. This one and they run regular interval. You know, so all that then the public transport authority they take care of that. Because then they decide the routes them, and then they give the network. Then we tell God thank you. Some projects will begin since Pakaba. It don't begin materialize. From that main routes they were telling her, we get alternative routes for freedom. And the alternative routes I can tell people them, if you take them from Black Hole Road, you get a road where they call Hillside Bypass, where they pass Bien Kisi Road Bengon. So it they come bus by prisons, that Dwazak Junction. So what in that they mean, it free up the traffic na Kisi Road and Frobe Road. So it take even less than 20 minutes for come out east and come west. Because if you come out down that route there, you can't do Dwazak. It go up Jomo Kenyatta. If some people that we don't know Jomo Kenyatta, I would like to tell them, I will show them. Now Usai SLBS been they now they call it SLBC. Now been they call New Englandville for their old school. You know. But then in a Jomo Kenyatta Road, then it come up to the top of the junction of Spur Road. And that's Signal Hill Road. No, not Signal Hill Road. Hillcourt Road. Sorry. Hillcourt Road, and that road where Gentle then build. You know, the two-way road, the first two-way road in Salone. Now, very good road. Because they see one side they up with the condom. They see the other side they down with the embankment. So you go get transport where they pass up that road there. You go Wilberforce. Spur Road, Lumley. Now that makes sure that Wilberforce area there, because you get heavy movement, then put the overhead bridge. The other side where the overhead bridge they you get one at Lumley, then you forget one na Ferry Junction. Because now then they move, then they pass na the East Road, they get one by Dre. So now the plan and no. So this is not a very elaborate project. They are still work in progress. But this is not the thing that we not start from 2017, when I actually then dream of the project and ongoing. So now, number one, we get community for run public transport. 2, governments not run buses again, all in the private sector. So you operate, I know beaucoup people in the diaspora we can send, say, well, I go run transport because some man can buy land, you want bills, we get 2-3 brother them, we go send motocar them for go, select and they run that motocar, they either as put a taxi for raise money for do in business. That in a bad business. I know say beaucoup of we in the diaspora, we don't get the experience there. You go get brother or cousin, hey, brother, you know, I don't get work. Yeah, buy one bus for me or one taxi I go to run. Now one of the biggest because it's also because the road they're not good. We get a policeman themselves na treat. Then there we get for talk about that. Now a different program on transport, but traffic enforcement and police because new thing don't come inside it. Because the policeman then get what's in and call booking. And the traffic ward in there. What's in a booking? It in a junction. You know, you get for get a small thing. Then it can turn in eye, blind eye if your vehicle not good or it is speed or you overload. We're not good for the system. Not all policemen and traffic warden they do am. Because in every institution, you get the good one them, you get the bad one them. So let's make that point clear. So now we don't organize and now if you are invest in transport, you go invest because you get a structured system. You get the Poda and Boss Owners Association where they work with their organization where you go get contract with them, you agree almost and they pay you for months. You don't get for worry about maintenance, police, now then they do all that. Now the agreements and so what improve with public transport in the country. Also, now under the new system, one thing will get problem with the country in spare parts. This is an opportunity for anyway the diaspora for look into that business there. Because now most of the people the way they sell spare parts.
May I interrupt
yes,
you, Mr.
Mr.
On the
yes,
before you get to the spare parts about this arrangement you just described. I understand you for say the responsibility of public transportation system is going to be shifted to the private sector. If I'm correct, tell me, because everything what you do elaborately state sound good, except for the fact that most of the people who will be using public transit are the ordinary Joe Blow or the ordinary person with extremely low income. In most countries, as we do here in England, the people, the government, the city governments, because in some countries, the city bus system at the city they run them.
Mr. Shilon, hold your thoughts there for one. We get somebody on the line. Let's deal with them because if they don't get time, they'll come back to you.
That's fine. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where's that you from? Hello, caller.
Abdul. They call from
Hey, Mr. Yeah, Mr. Abdul. Thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess a couple of questions about this urban integration project because I'm the follower and keenly when the minister, cabinet, Salone, and the deputy then Sadiq Silami launched, I think about 3.5 years ago. When they mentioned now 200 buses get for dinner at the route. 200 because distinctly I recall that. Now 200 buses at the route from the end side and they also from Jue to number 2 river. But my question was when you say now private individuals them get for come run them. You know feel to say the people them will still suffer because when we go to last year, I realized people then they spend a lot on public transportation. I'm in Majeton. So I take public transport just to know how people and the losses where people and they go through. For Majeton, I just give you a simple example. For Majeton, for Kamna, outside the first lady in office day. Now they pay 4,000 for 4,000 KK. Then from there for Kamna Lomley, now another 4,000. Then from Lomley for Kamna Wilkins and then Congo Cross Junction. You're saying at 6. Some the KK they ask for 6. If you stop na collegiate, perhaps they will tell you they pay 4. So when you come to that amount, assuming somebody they go work as far as rebuilding, how much they spend for the day? So you know, people say it's not feasible for they left them only and solely in the hands of government, in the hands of the private individuals, instead of them doing like how they do when at the county, even a million county you are there in Maryland here, Montgomery County. Up till now, what they tell you so, people and they pay from since the outbreak of COVID. People know they pay nothing at the port, at the county in boss. Because that's the only way that government will be able to alleviate the suffering of people. The minimum wage is 600. There are lots of people where they get less than 600. I can tell you this for fact. because I was there. There are lots of people. So if you say, if they go put them in the hands of private individuals, believe you me, I don't think they will yield any dividend. I'll stop so far. Thank you.
Okay, before Mr. Mangum answer that, no, Mr. Mangum, before you answer, this is in line with what the comment I was going to make before we take this call. That was going to be my point. In most countries, as I be to say, public transit system is handled either by the city or, like you say, some state, the county, you know, even like in England, when I get the tube, when I get the public buses, the government gets a major role for play. Because like how do they say, the caller recently, we just called, it is going to be financially unduly burdensome on the people because they're not going to be able to afford it if it is shifted in the hands of the private sector. Because in every country that I know, public transit system is highly subsidized either by some type of government, either by city government, local government, or county government. Because if you move it in the hands of private, they are operating strictly on a profit basis, not for public convenience. So it could be counterproductive. I think that aspect there of just of the government just creating all these facilities and then turn it over to private enterprise, not only will be counterproductive, but it will not yield the intended result. I don't know what you think about that, because I mean, people, the average income, like you say back home, the average worker, they make about $40 a month, and they need public transportation. And the possible way to run public transportation, they operate on a profit basis. Gasoline, they go up, they therefore make profit from in transportation for be able to put food on the table. So it just wouldn't work. So I think that's one aspect of the arrangement that they should think about. Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Shilon, let I explain this to you and to the caller we come, right? Already, 95% of public transport is provided by the private sector. That is what we are now.
Well, they should 95%.
Change it.
I think they should change
I'll continue. I'll continue. Okay. Yeah. What we haven't done, and I'll tell you, I will answer the question where you talk with. I'll answer for you, because is we not get a system of standards, we not get a system of regulation. Yeah, we not get no mass transit system. That's alone. That is the issue. Now, when you talk about fares, from what you talk so now, I can tell you now the way the public transport they operate. Let's say you want to come on Lumley for reach inside town. You'll be lucky. Sometimes you get a Lumley Puda, where sometimes it will able to take you from Lumley carry you go central town. But most of them Puda then like movie cops, they not get standards and all lengthy than they. But normally, that journey day sometimes if you're not lucky for getting Puda then they with you, and then Puda the best thing can take something like 15, 20 or 35 seats they overload, then dangerous. You have to take 3 transports. Then they cause the increase. You have to take one from Lumley, where probably go put you down na Congo Cross. From Congo Cross, sometimes you could get one Keke Okada where say na St. John and they left you. Then from St. John to Kaisai Town. So when you take them different trips than they, it costs more than a one. Secondly, the other problem we get, which I've challenged as a transport man, now the way they set fares. Now governments, they set fares now under the present law. So what happens is that they not even explain how they set fares, because when they set fares, now like you get for look at the operating cost against the revenue, projected revenue. First of all, you look at the break-even level. Operating costs, you get what you call fixed costs, you get variable cost. Fixed cost, nothing that we pay probably once a year, like you car registration, insurance. Even if you get driver on a fixed cost, because you know how much they pay for months. You understand? Then you get variable cost when you fuel, you lubricant, you maintenance cost, and then the other two they put into cost. We know they look at things to do with depreciation and vehicle replacement cost. So there's no scientific basis for calculate the fare. So government just put a fare where, and the way the public transport they operates now they prefer up on and up on and up off. So they'll take halfway and take, so it's very unplanned. Now under this new system, we get a 65-seater bus. On the western route, from point A, from the one end of the route to the other end of the route, right? Now almost a single fare you pay. So it's cheaper than waiting and they pay now. Because we do the calculation. We do the survey origin and destination survey. We do the trip load, everything. We calculate them using a proper formula. So government therefore go back to that. And when you talk about city planning authority, yes. Now make sure they get the public transport regulatory authority. Now then they define the routes where they operate, the type of bus they way for use, because we also get feeder routes then. Routes that we're going to join that main routes there. So that main route then are the main transit routes. And we do a business plan, we do a profit and loss, everything. And I can tell you, based on the work that I was involved in, it's far more cost effective, safer, and cheaper than what you get now. But your fears, I also have the same fears. When you talk about the private sector, how many qualified or properly trained transport operator we get, we go able to operate them buses in a manner professionally? That's the challenge. Secondly, whether they not go end up get some politicians there with interest for set up companies them for operate that routes. That's another challenge. But we are working towards that. That's why we are setting up the Poda and Bus Owners Association. Because the owners them, I am involved in building their capacity for run that routes day. Because the one way they operate, we will operate that routes day, not so new people who want. Now people that will already they operate buses and Poda. They already operate on that route. That's the only thing we have available. What we need to do now is to bring them together, just like a cooperative, capacitate them, build them, bring in new technology, and see how it can work. It's a challenge. I don't say it will be a smooth ride, but it's a change from the past. You see, gone are the days where people are just going to the transport business without knowing management and operation of transport. We get things that we call like planned preventive maintenance. You get for get your maintenance schedule. You get for know how to schedule your vehicle. You get for know how to calculate your fuel use. All that thing, and it's an uphill task, but for me, it's achievable.
Yeah, but may I also ask that the main focus with all of the planning and the amount of money, one question before I even ask that. If they're going to get 200 buses.
Okay, before you go, let's explain that 200 buses there, because let's explain that 200 buses there. You see, now one of the things that when politicians can go, they want to make people feel good and make a lot of statements. But I was part of the management consultants that look at it, because you get to look at schedule, you get to look at what we call headway, bus headway. Now the difference in time between one bus and the other. You have to look at the frequency of routes and everything before you go calculate how much buses you go need. So, okay, we are doing it in a pilot phase. Phase 1, now from Lumley to Central Bus District, Central Bus District to Dre. Phase 2, it extends from Lumley to number 2 River on the east, and from Calbaton to Dre on the west. So that entire route there, based on the schedule, when it's fully operational, we will need 180 buses. For phase 1, World Bank is only financing 50 buses. Out of those 50 buses, 34 buses will run on the Eastern Corridor. And I remind people in back of the Eastern Corridor, because now they get the majority traffic, and I can tell you on the routes. Eastern Corridor, now we start from Central Bus Station, it can't outside PZ Binde, Sani Abacha Street, because then they be buses only. As you can see, then they put barrier. Then Kisi Road, now that makes sure we don't get the hillside bypass as an alternative route. Then it go up Gunton Table, by Bure Road, Terich Dre, the Calbaton, the first phase. So for that route, they will don't tell you that 34 buses then. And if you consider each of these buses are 65-seater, so think about the volume where they carry. Yeah. Then on the western route, where they start from Lumley, it comes to outside around about where Lumley Police Station there. It goes Spur Road, Congo Cross. It goes down Savage Street, Sanders Street, Shaka Stevens Street. It goes down Gloucester Street, there it goes Central Bus Station. Before you go, I think I get one man with a troll now because they ask a question. I collect for entertain everybody. He says, sir, tell us about the 100 buses we wasted money on. Let us go back to that.
We don't need to. We all agree money.
We agree say that was a bad deal because those buses were bought where we not get proper planning system, we not get proper regulations, we not get proper accountability.
Correct.
And now that makes sure they put things in place now. So the problem with the country is whenever you talk about a new thing, people still come back for refer to the old system. And so, oh, well, now this be happened in the past, or then tell you, say, we're not able to change. No. I am a positive man. And like you reference, I worked in Nairobi as a World Bank consultant, doing the same transformation plan. They were as chaotic as ours. But for any plan for succeed in any country, it takes two things: leadership and political will. With the leadership and political will and the support of the people. And for let the people and support you, you get to be as transparent as possible. And let me make them free for reviewers. This job where they do so, they explain to you. And they do them based on passion and love for country. Now government for they do this. Now government for they do them work here. But when they do them, we're not going to left all hands on government. So if people they want to ask questions, like what Mr. Shilon asked, like what the former caller asked, what are the challenges them, how we go solve them, as best as possible as a transport professional, I go explain to you now. But if not you are not able, get clear, I get access to government, the Ministry of Transport, the people that they plan the system, for say, well, this is the concern of the public. Right? And I go make one promise today. As we progress on this project, I go update in every program. The second part of the main program will be transport. And I want to let people challenge my views. I want to let people ask difficult questions. Because if you not do that, myself now not going able to learn. So let's hold on there and hand over to Mr. Shilon if you want any point of clarification. I think so. We'll almost they go through the hour now. These are just giving the tip of the iceberg. But we will continue for the look at transport. Because transport now affect everybody. From the marketuman, where they go buy in markets, na Dovecot, for go Kutoroda, na transport in need. That picky where they go school, in need transport. We don't talk about school bus them. These government don't knock chest about school bus them. But how they operate that school bus day, the cost of operation is also a question. Right? When we talk about Lunga, we talk about airports. You can build a fine airport. But if you don't get land links to that airport, they're useless. That mommy where they go buy per mile upline. If you don't get transport for bringing per mile, now I can tell you and say, one batter per mile, what you call batter, another 5 gallon, the yellow gallon. About 18 months or so ago, it was about 250,000. Now, that one batter per mile they go at 650,000. And a significant percentage of that price now based on the transport cost. And we got other costs they were associated with and go put because we don't get them toll road them. Because all that they increase the cost. So that's why transport is important. That's why I'm here to talk about it, especially we don't talk about the railways. And this new plan we get for railway, they don't talk about coastal transport. All these things now we're going to discuss. Because as election they come, we the people then get for understand what we need from government, what we get for challenge and they will put in parliament for do. And transport affect all we life. So that hold me thoughts there and hand over to Mr. Shilon. If you get any further questions, you can ask and we'll round up for today.
Yeah. So since we don't reach this point, I just want to address quickly one of we listeners sending a comment about in the grand scheme of things that they will not forget about the propensity for we police them for help for stymied the smooth process or operation of any enterprise or endeavor, meaning the police also in the grand scheme of things we have to take them into account in terms of the corrupt practices. So, and this is not being said in condemnation of them, but it's a reality that police then they also add to the hardship and the difficulty in making things run smoothly because of them overburning desire for get some money on the side and because of they are grossly underpaid. So, so we just want to talk about the corrupt practices of the police. Because the listener just say that again, please don't forget the corrupt operations of the police, which is well entrenched in the system with high-placed persons profiting from the corruption. So these are all things. So when we come up with a fancy or fanciful system there, we therefore address the whole thing holistically, because we may pretend as if the police not get any adverse effect on the grand scheme of things, but the police do. And in that sense,
just
we also have...
Sheila, with your permission, I go say another program we'll go deal with. Now, all thing for do with traffic law enforcement. And I go able to explain how they address that issue today. So I'm aware of that, and it will be an ongoing. Because what you are getting today, not just the tip of the iceberg. But if it's by popular request, people they want to talk about traffic law enforcement, not just for the new boss they are will bring, but for everybody, then I could deal with that. I think, in fairness to people who can hold on to the railway, then the next program, I talk about traffic law enforcement.
That's
instead of the way we'll, I think I go share with you. I say I will do that. So that we will keep the thought process going. So we thank that caller there for bringing up, or the person for bringing up that project. Sorry about that. I hand over to you to finish that.
Oh, no, I was just wrapping up anyway. So we've reached the end of broadcasting. Until next week, we'll say thanks for listening. Thanks for making all the contributions we make. And until then, I, Mohammed Shilon, will be back with you people. So, Mr. Mangum, back to you. So that's say what you want to say, and that will be the end of the show.
Okay, thank you, people. We look forward to you joining us next week again, where the second segment will be on transport. Keep on sending your concerns on VOS Network or the Facebook, where you don't watch them, or then we will address them. Love engage in this dialogue. So for me, I don't get nothing for say. I say tata to in all. Let I get a very fruitful week, and let God make it all safe as you travel on in the transport, wherever you might be. Over and out.